I wasn't supposed to stop that night. Just fuel, coffee, and back on the road. That was the plan. My name is Mary. I've been driving trucks across the country for years now. Long nights. Empty highways. Cheap diners that all look the same. That night, I stopped somewhere in Nebraska. Small roadside diner. The kind you don't remember twice. Snow had started falling again. Not a storm this time. Just enough to make everything feel colder than it already was. I hadn't eaten properly in hours. Maybe longer. Time gets weird when you're on the road. The diner was almost empty. Just a couple sitting far in the back. A tired waitress behind the counter. And me. I sat alone. Same as always. Ordered coffee. Something warm. Didn't even care what it was. That's when the door opened. The bell rang. And everything changed. You can tell a lot about someone the moment they walk in. This man didn't belong there. Clean suit. Perfect posture. Calm. Too calm. He looked around slowly, not like someone searching for a table, like someone searching for a person. And then he looked at me and smiled. That was my first mistake, because I smiled back. He walked toward my table, didn't hesitate, didn't ask, just sat down. "I've been looking for you." My stomach tightened. "Excuse me?" His smile didn't change. "I have an offer for you." Something about the way he said it felt wrong. Too direct. Too certain. I leaned back slightly. "I think you've got the wrong person." He shook his head slowly. "No, I don't." Silence. The kind that doesn't belong in a normal conversation. The waitress glanced over, then looked away quickly, like she didn't want to be involved. That was the second thing that felt off. Then he said something that made my chest tighten. "I know where you've been the last 3 days." And just like that, this wasn't a normal night anymore. I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure how. "You what?" He leaned forward slightly. Calm. Relaxed. "Utah, then Colorado, now here." My blood ran cold. That was my exact route. Not public. Not obvious. "How do you know that?" He ignored the question. "I also know you drive alone." Silence. "I know you don't trust easily." I stared at him, trying to understand. "And I know you don't stop unless you have to." That hit harder than it should have, because it was true. Every word. I glanced around the diner. Still quiet. Still normal. But it didn't feel normal anymore. "Who are you?" He smiled slightly. "Victor Hale." The name didn't mean anything to me. But the way he said it, like it should. "I'm not interested in whatever this is," I said, standing up slightly. "Sit down." He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Something in his tone made me pause. Then he said, "I can pay you more money tonight than you've made in the last 5 years." That got my attention. But not in a good way. "Doing what?" He leaned back again, driving. I almost laughed. "That's it." He shook his head. "Not exactly." Of course it wasn't. Nothing about this felt simple. "What's the catch?" That's when his smile changed. Just slightly. "There's no catch." That was the third mistake. Because when someone says that, there always is, I didn't touch the key right away. It just sat there on the table between us. Heavy. Too heavy for something that was supposed to be simple. Victor Hale didn't rush me. Didn't push. Didn't repeat himself. He just watched. That was the part that bothered me the most. People who want something usually talk more. Explain more. Convince. He didn't. He acted like the decision had already been made. Like I was just catching up to it. I leaned back slightly in the booth. crossed my arms, trying to put some distance between me and whatever this was. You're asking a stranger to take a truck full of something I can't see to a place I don't know for money that doesn't make sense. My voice was calm. But inside, everything felt off. Victor nodded once. That's one way to describe it. I let out a small breath through my nose. That's the only way to describe it. The waitress passed by slowly, refilled my coffee without saying a word. But I noticed something. Her hands were shaking. Just slightly. And when she placed the cup down, she avoided looking at him. Completely. That wasn't normal. I watched her walk away, then looked back at Victor. You come here often? He didn't even turn his head. Only when I need to. That answer was worse than anything else he had said so far. I tapped the table lightly with my fingers. Thinking. You said you've been looking for me. Yes. Why me? For the first time. He paused. Not long, but enough to notice. You're consistent. I frowned. What does that mean? It means you follow patterns. I didn't like that. Everyone follows patterns. Not like you. Silence again. I could feel something tightening in my chest. This wasn't random. This man had been watching me. How long? He tilted his head slightly. How long what? How long have you been watching me? He smiled. And that smile wasn't friendly. Long enough. That was it. That was the moment I should have stood up and walked out. But I didn't. Because something else had already started happening. Curiosity. The kind that pulls you deeper, even when your instincts are screaming at you to leave. What exactly do you want transported? Victor reached into his coat pocket slowly, pulled out a folded piece of paper, placed it on the table. I didn't touch it at first, just looked at it. Coordinates, he said. I unfolded it carefully. Numbers. Latitude and longitude. No address. No name. Just a point in the middle of nowhere. That's your destination. I stared at it, trying to recognize something. Anything. Where is this? Somewhere you don't need to know about. I exhaled slowly. Everything about this sounds like a bad idea. Victor leaned back in his seat. Most opportunities do. I shook my head. No, this isn't an opportunity. This is... I stopped. Because I didn't even know how to define it. Illegal, dangerous, stupid. All of the above, he finished for me. I looked at him. You said it, not me. Silence again. The diner felt smaller now. Like the walls had moved closer. Like everything outside that table didn't matter anymore. Let me ask you something, Victor said. I didn't answer. He continued anyway. How long have you been doing this? Driving? He nodded. Almost 9 years. And in those 9 years, he leaned forward slightly. What's changed? That caught me off guard. What do you mean? Same roads, same stops, same money, same life. I didn't respond. Because he wasn't wrong. People like you, he continued, don't stop because they love the road. His eyes locked onto mine. They stop because they don't have anything else. That hit harder than I expected. I looked away, took a sip of coffee. Cold now. Of course it was. Don't do that, I said quietly. Do what? Pretend you understand me. He didn't react. Didn't apologize. Just said, I don't need to understand you. Another pause. I just need you to say yes. That silence again. Heavy. Uncomfortable. And then, he did something that changed everything. He placed an envelope on the table. Thick. Too thick. I stared at it. Didn't touch it. How much? Open it. I hesitated. Then slowly reached forward, opened it, and froze. Cash. Stacks of it. More than I had seen in one place. In years. My chest tightened. That's half. I looked up at him. What's the other half? He smiled. Motivation. I swallowed. This wasn't just money anymore. This was pressure. Control. A decision already closing in on me. I don't like this. I know. You're asking me to trust you. No. He shook his head slowly. I'm asking you to trust the situation. That didn't make sense. It wasn't supposed to. Because that's how people get pulled into things like this. Not by logic, but by momentum. And I could feel it now. Pulling. Quietly. Slowly. I need details. No, you don't. I need something. You have everything you need. I looked at the key again. Then at the money. Then at him. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't a conversation. This was a test. And I was already halfway through it. I'll think about it. Victor stood up. Smooth. Controlled. You don't have time to think. That made my heart skip. Why not? He looked down at me. Calm as ever. Because the truck is already loaded. Silence. And it doesn't wait. A cold feeling spread through my chest. You mean it's outside right now? Yes. And if I say no? He paused. Then said quietly, You won't. And with that, he turned and walked toward the door. Didn't look back. Didn't wait. Just left. The bell rang. The door closed. And suddenly, everything felt normal again. The diner. The lights. The silence. But I knew it wasn't. Because the key was still on the table. And the money was still in my hand. And outside, in the snow, there was a truck waiting for me. And for some reason, I stood up. The cold hit harder this time. Not just outside, but inside me. I stepped out of the diner slowly. The door closing behind me with that same soft bell sound. Normal. Too normal. Like nothing had just happened. But everything had. The snow had picked up again. Wind cutting across the empty parking lot. The kind of cold that makes your thoughts sharper and your decisions worse. I stood there for a second, looking at my own truck. Old. Worn. Familiar. Safe. Then I saw it. Parked farther out. Away from the lights. Black. Not just dark. Black in a way that absorbed the light around it. A semi-truck. But not like any I had seen before. Too clean. Too perfect. No company logo. No identification. No markings. Nothing. Just presence. That's not normal. I whispered to myself. I glanced back at the diner. Part of me expected Victor to still be there. Watching. But the windows were empty. Like he had never existed. That made it worse. I took a step toward the truck. Then another. Each step heavier than the last. My boots crunching against frozen ground. The sound echoing too loudly in the silence. Halfway there, I stopped. Just walk away. The thought came clear. Strong. Get in your truck. Leave. Forget this ever happened. That would have been the smart move. The right move. The only move. But then I felt it again. That pull. Not curiosity this time. Something deeper. Something heavier. I looked down at the envelope still in my hand. Money. Real. Immediate. Then at the key. Cold metal against my fingers. I exhaled slowly. This is a mistake. And kept walking. When I got closer, I noticed something else. The engine was already running. Low. Quiet. Too quiet. Like it had been waiting. For me. I walked around the front. The headlights were off, but the faint hum of the engine vibrated through the air. I placed my hand on the door handle. Cold. Frozen. For a moment, I didn't move. Just stood there. Feeling that pressure again. That sense that something was about to change. And once it did, there would be no undoing it. I opened the door. The interior was warm. Warmer than it should have been. Like someone had just been sitting there. But no one was. I climbed in slowly. Closed the door behind me. Silence. Different from outside. Controlled. The dashboard lit up automatically. Everything looked new. Too new. No dust. No wear. No signs of use. Not even fingerprints. Who owns this thing? I sat in the driver's seat. It adjusted slightly. Automatically. Perfect position. It made my skin crawl. I hadn't touched anything yet. And still. It adjusted. I looked at the mirrors. Nothing behind me. Nothing unusual. But the feeling didn't go away. I placed the key in the ignition. Even though the engine was already on. Habit. Routine. Something familiar in a situation that wasn't. I checked the controls. Everything responded instantly. Smooth. Precise. Too precise. This isn't a normal truck. I whispered. And deep down, I already knew that. I looked at the trailer connection. Locked. Secure. No signs of damage. No labels. No markings. Nothing. What are you carrying? I hesitated. My hand hovered near the door. I could still get out. Still walk away. Still pretend none of this happened. But then, I heard something. Very faint. From the back. I froze. Nothing. Just the engine. The wind outside. I shook my head slightly. You're imagining things. That's what I told myself. That's what you always tell yourself. Until it's too late. I put the truck into gear. The movement was immediate. Smooth. No resistance. Like it wanted to move. Like it had been waiting for that exact moment. I pulled out of the parking lot slowly. Past my own truck. Familiar. And left it behind. That felt wrong. Really wrong. Like I was leaving something important behind. More than just a vehicle. I reached the road. Turned. And just like that, I was in. Fully. No turning back now. The snow kept falling. The road stretched ahead. Empty. Endless. I checked the mirrors again. Still nothing. No headlights. No cars. No movement. Completely alone. Or at least, that's what it looked like. I drove in silence for a few minutes. Trying to convince myself this was just another job. Just another drive. But something didn't fit. The truck. The silence. The way everything felt too controlled. Too perfect. Then it happened. A sound. Clear this time. From the trailer. A knock. Soft. But unmistakable. My hands tightened on the wheel. That's not cargo. I slowed slightly. Listening. Another knock. Stronger this time. From inside. My heart started racing. Fast. Loud. No. I checked the mirrors again. Still nothing. But now I wasn't looking for cars. I was listening. Waiting. Trying to understand. And then, I heard something else. A voice. Faint. Almost lost in the sound of the engine. But there. Real. From the back. Help. My blood ran cold. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just a job. And I had just made the worst decision of my life. That voice, it didn't belong there. It wasn't loud. It wasn't clear. But it was human. And once you hear something like that, you can't unhear it. My grip tightened around the wheel. Help. It came again. Faint. Weak. But real. My heart started racing so fast it felt like it was hitting my ribs. No, that's not possible. I looked at the mirrors. Still nothing behind me. Empty road. Snow falling steadily. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. I slowed the truck slightly. My breathing was uneven now. Every instinct screaming at me to stop. To check. To confirm. And at the same time, another voice in my head saying, "Don't. Just drive. Finish the job." Because deep down, I already knew what this was. I just didn't want to admit it. The road ahead stretched into darkness. Endless. Cold. Empty. Just like always. Except this time, I wasn't alone. Another sound came from the trailer. A knock. Stronger now, more desperate. Then multiple knocks. Different rhythms. Different positions. Not one person. Several. My chest tightened. No. I pressed the brakes. Harder this time. The truck slowed rapidly. Snow crunching under the tires. The engine humming lower. Until finally, I came to a stop. Complete silence. Except for the wind. And the sound from the back. I closed my eyes for a second. This is a mistake. But I already knew. Opening that trailer would change everything. I stepped out of the truck. The cold hit instantly. Sharp. Like it wanted to push me back inside. But I kept walking. Slowly. Each step heavier than the last. The snow reached my boots. Wind howling across the empty highway. No lights. No cars. Nothing. Just me. And whatever was inside that trailer. I reached the back. The metal doors stood there. Tall. Silent. But not still. Because from the inside, I could hear movement. Shifting. Scraping. Breathing. My hand hovered near the handle. I hesitated. This is where you walk away. That voice again. Get back in the truck. Drive. Forget this. Because if I opened it, there was no going back. No pretending. No, just a job. But then, please, the voice again. Closer this time. Right behind the door. My chest tightened. That was it. I grabbed the handle. Cold metal against my skin. And pulled. The doors opened with a heavy metallic sound. And what I saw stopped everything. People. Dozens of them. Packed inside. No space. No light. Just bodies. Cold. Terrified. Some sitting. Some barely standing. Eyes wide. Desperate. And all of them looking at me. At once. My breath caught in my throat. This isn't real. A man near the front stepped forward slightly. Leak. Shaking. Please, don't take us there. His voice cracked. I looked at him. Then at the others. Women. Young. Older. Some barely conscious. Some crying silently. Some just staring. Empty. Broken. What is this? No one answered directly. They didn't need to. Because I already knew. This wasn't transport. This wasn't cargo. This was trafficking. My stomach twisted. Hard. I stepped back slightly. No, I didn't sign up for this. The man grabbed the edge of the door. Weak grip. What urgent? They said we'd disappear. My heart dropped. His eyes shifted behind me. And in that moment, everything inside me froze. Because I realized something. I wasn't alone out here. I turned slowly, too slowly, and saw it. Headlights. Far back on the road. Approaching. Not fast. Not slow. Controlled. My chest tightened. They're coming. Someone whispered from inside. Panic started spreading. Movement inside the trailer. Fear growing. They said no one would stop. They said no one would look. They said, "Hey." I snapped. Trying to control the situation. Trying to think. Trying to breathe. Listen to me. But I didn't even know what I was about to say. Because there was no plan. No solution. Just a problem I had just stepped into. The headlights got closer. Brighter now. Too bright. I could feel time running out. I looked at them again. All those faces. Waiting. Hoping. And suddenly, I understood something that hit harder than anything else. They thought I was part of it. That I was one of them. That I had brought them here. And in a way, I had. That realization cut deeper than fear. Because now, this wasn't just about me anymore. The headlights were close now. Very close. I could hear the engine. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. They were coming back for the cargo. For them. And for me. I took a step back. Heart pounding. Mind racing. And realized something terrifying. I had two choices. Close the doors. And pretend I saw nothing. Or do something that would make me their next problem. The engine behind me got louder. Closer. And I still hadn't decided. Not too close. Not too far. Just enough to remind me. They were in control. The engine stayed on. Low. Heavy. Like a warning. I didn't turn around immediately. I couldn't. Because the moment I did, this would become real in a way I couldn't undo. Behind me, inside the trailer, I could hear them breathing. Fast. Uneven. Afraid. Waiting. For me. That weight. It settled on my chest like something physical. I wasn't just holding a door open anymore. I was holding their only chance. Or closing it. Slowly, I turned around. The headlights blinded me for a second. White light cutting through the snow. Then, Shadow stepped forward. Calm. Controlled. Victor Hale. Of course. He walked like nothing had changed. Like this was just another part of the plan. Because for him, it was. You weren't supposed to stop. His voice was the same. Calm. Measured. Like he was commenting on something minor. Not this, not them. My hands clenched. You lied to me. He tilted his head slightly. I omitted details. My anger rose instantly. That's not the same thing. It is when the outcome doesn't change. That sentence. Hit wrong. Deep. What do you mean? He took another step forward. Snow crunching under his shoes. Perfect posture. Perfect control. Whether you knew or not, he looked past me. Into the trailer. You were always going to drive. Silence. That made my stomach twist. No, I said firmly. I'm not doing this. He looked back at me. And for the first time, there was no trace of a smile. Just calculation. You already did. That landed like a punch. I shook my head. No, I stopped. I opened it. I'm done. Victor exhaled slowly. Almost like he was disappointed. You think stopping changes anything? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. You think opening that door, he continued. puts you outside of this? My chest tightened. I didn't know. That doesn't matter. His tone stayed cold. Flat. Intent doesn't erase involvement. The people behind me shifted. Whispers. Fear rising again. Please. Someone said softly. Victor ignored it completely. Like they weren't even there. Like they weren't human. That made something inside me snap. They're people. My voice was sharper now. Louder. They're not cargo. He looked at me. And for a moment, nothing moved. Then he said something that made everything worse. To you? Silence. That's all this is, he continued calmly. Perspective. I stared at him in disbelief. You're insane. No. He shook his head slightly. I'm efficient. That word made my stomach turn. Behind him, the vehicle's engine was still running. Lights still on. No one else stepped out. That didn't mean no one else was there. Let them go, I said. Even as I said it, I knew how it sounded. Weak. Useless. But it was all I had. Victor didn't respond right away. He just looked at me. Studying. Measuring. Then? No. Just like that. Final. Cold. Move. My body tensed. I'm not moving. Silence again. The wind picked up. Snow swirling between us. The kind of moment where everything slows down. Where decisions get locked in. You're making this harder than it needs to be, Victor said. No, you are. That was the truth. And for the first time, I saw something shift in his expression. Small, but real. Impatience. That meant something. It meant this wasn't going exactly how he planned. That gave me something. A tiny edge. I'm not closing that door, I said. And I'm not driving anywhere. Victor stepped closer, now just a few meters away. Close enough to see his face clearly. Perfect. Calm. But colder now. You don't have that option. Yes, I do. No. Another step. You really don't. My heart was pounding hard now. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Not anymore. Then what are you going to do? I asked. Silence. Then he said it. Quietly. Like it didn't matter. I'll replace you. My stomach dropped. That's not the problem, he added. The problem is, you've seen too much. Everything inside me went cold. Real cold. Not the snow. Not the wind. Something deeper. Behind me, panic started rising again. They understood too. What does that mean? I asked, even though I already knew. Victor looked at me. Straight. Unblinking. It means you were never part of the delivery. A pause. You were part of the test. Silence. What test? And that's when he said something that changed everything. I needed to know if you'd open the door. My breath caught. And now I do. The weight of that hit instantly. Hard. This wasn't random. This wasn't opportunity. This was selection. Carefully planned. Carefully executed. You chose me for this. Yes. Why? He paused. Then finally said, because people like you, another step closer. Either become useful. My chest tightened. Or disappear. Silence. Snow falling. Wind rising. No more distance between us. No more illusion of control. Just truth. Raw. Cold. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This was never about the job. It was about me. And I had just made the wrong choice, snow swirling between us. But I barely felt it anymore. because everything inside me had gone still. You said this was a test. My voice came out lower than I expected. Victor didn't answer immediately. He just watched me, like he was deciding how much I deserved to know. Then he spoke. Every driver I use, a pause, goes through it. My stomach tightened. How many? Enough. That wasn't an answer. That was a warning. I shook my head slowly. And if they don't open the trailer? Victor's expression didn't change. They finish the job. And if they do? Silence. The kind that tells you everything before the words come. They don't. Cold. Direct. Final. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the snow. So this was never a delivery. It was. He corrected me calmly. Just not the one you thought. I stared at him, trying to understand, trying to catch up. You're building something, I said. Something bigger than this. Victor didn't deny it, didn't confirm it either. But his silence said enough. You don't just move people, I continued. You test the drivers. Another pause. And the ones who pass, I swallowed. They become part of it. Victor nodded once. Finally. A small movement. But it confirmed everything. And the ones who don't. I asked. Even though I already knew, they become a liability. There it was. The truth. Clean. Simple. Deadly. Behind me, the people in the trailer had gone quiet. Listening. Understanding. Just like me. You set this up from the start, I said. The diner? He nodded slightly. The route. Another small nod. You followed me for days. Yes. No hesitation. No denial. You knew I'd stop. I knew you'd hesitate. That hit differently. You didn't know I'd say yes. Victor looked at me carefully, then said, I knew you'd stay. Silence. And that was worse. Because he was right. Even now, I hadn't left. I was still there. Still standing in front of him. Still part of this. I can still walk away, I said. It sounded weak. Even to me. Victor didn't respond right away. He just stepped closer. Now close enough that I could see every detail in his face. Perfect control. No emotion. You don't understand yet, he said quietly. My chest tightened. Then explain it. He studied me for a second. Then finally, he did. The people in that trailer, he gestured behind me, are not the product. That made my stomach twist. Then what are they? He looked straight into my eyes. They're the trigger. Silence. I didn't understand. Not fully. What does that mean? Victor took a slow breath. For someone like you. He pointed slightly toward me. This moment defines everything. My heart started pounding again. What moment? This one, he said calmly. The moment where you decide. His voice stayed steady. Who you are. The air felt heavier. Thicker. You either close that door, my chest tightened, and become useful. My hands clenched. Or you leave it open. I didn't move. And become a problem. Silence. Pure. Heavy. Final. That was the real offer. Not the money. Not the job. The choice. And suddenly, everything made sense. The diner. The route. The pressure. The silence. It was all designed to bring me here. To this exact second. You don't need drivers, I said slowly. Victor watched me. You need people who won't question. A pause. People who won't look. Another pause. People who won't stop. Victor's expression didn't change. But that was the answer. I turned slightly, looked back at the trailer, at the people inside. Still watching me. Still waiting. And I realized something that hit deeper than fear. This wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. About what I was going to do next. I looked back at Victor. Snow falling between us. Time slowing down. And I made my decision. No. The word came out steady. Stronger than I expected. Victor didn't react. Not immediately. I'm not part of this. Silence. Then he nodded once. Small. Controlled. Like he had expected it. Then you understand what happens next. My heart dropped. But I didn't move. Didn't step back. Didn't run. Yeah, I said quietly. I think I do. Another pause. Long. Heavy. And then Victor stepped aside. Just slightly. And for the first time, I saw it. Movement behind him. Shadows. More than one. They had been there the whole time. Waiting. Just like him. Just like this moment. My chest tightened. But I didn't look away. Didn't break eye contact. Because something inside me had already shifted. Fear was still there. But something else had taken its place. Clarity. I turned back to the trailer. Grabbed the door. And instead of closing it, I pulled it open wider. The people inside flinched. Confused. Hope mixed with fear. Go! My voice was firm now. For a second, no one moved. Then one stepped forward. Then another. And suddenly, everything broke. They started climbing out. Fast. Desperate. Running into the snow. Into the darkness. Into anything that wasn't this. Behind me, I heard movement. Fast. Sharp. Victor's men reacting. But I didn't turn. Didn't run. I just stood there, watching them disappear into the storm. One by one. Until the trailer was empty. Completely. Silence returned. Heavy. Final. Then I turned back. Victor was still there, watching me. Same calm expression. But something behind it had changed. Not anger. Not frustration. Recognition. You chose. He said quietly. Yeah, I answered. I did. Another pause. Then he nodded. Slowly. Good. That word didn't make sense. Good. He looked at me one last time. Now I know. My chest tightened. Know what? But he didn't answer. He turned. Walked back toward the vehicle. The shadows moved with him. Doors opened. Engines shifted. And within seconds, they were gone. Just like that. Vanished into the storm. Leaving me there. Alone. With an empty trailer. And a decision that couldn't be undone. The wind howled around me. Snow covering the tracks. Erasing everything. Like none of this had ever happened. But it had. And I knew something now. Something I couldn't ignore. Victor Hale didn't lose control that night. He got exactly what he wanted. Because this was never about the delivery. It was never about the money. It was never about them. It was about finding people like me. People who would open the door. And people who wouldn't close it. And the worst part. I still don't know which one is more dangerous.